Wow, so as many of you know, I spent this past week down in Philadelphia at what is colloquially called Baby Pastor Camp. It was a good time. I was wrong, by the way, for the many of you that I complained about having to go. It ended up actually being a really fantastic time. I learned a lot. We talked a lot about how the church needs, how ways to make church relevant to 21st century life. And I was really all gung-ho ready to come back and preach all about that sort of topic. And then I looked again at the gospel reading and saw the whole thing about the exorcism and demons and all that. And I realized, wow, we're trying to talk about 21st century life where, demons and exorcisms really aren't kind of part of our worldview. That's going to make it tough. So I decided to talk about the demons. By the way, it's probably worth mentioning, too, that a lot of Lutherans in other parts of the world, demons are real things, too. So that's something to keep in mind. Like kind of real physical beings, which is interesting. But whether or not we think of a demon as sort of something plaguing us in our minds or, something weighing heavily on our hearts or this actual, spirit thing, it doesn't really matter whether or not how we exactly think them, because pretty much they always act the same way. And they have the same problem with them, and Christ works the same way, no matter how we define a demon. So to just kind of illustrate the story, I was going to tell you a little bit of one of my own battles with the demon, and also the exorcism that I experienced as well. So, back in middle school and high school, I really dealt with a pretty serious bout of anxiety and depression. Started kind of coming up in middle school. I didn't really know what it was yet. I couldn't really define it. By the time I got to my freshman year of high school, I had so much anxiety about being around other people that it was getting to be increasingly hard for me to go to school. I don't know, I would just kind of have like these panic attacks whenever I was around other people. I'm clearly a loud, outgoing person, and it was almost impossible for me when I was kind of having these situations to talk to others, to make friends, and that sort of thing. It was really, really difficult. To the point where I was end of my first semester of high school as a freshman, and my mom came to pick me up the day before Christmas break, and I ran into the van and said, "Mom, I can never go back to school." Ever. The anxiety had gotten so bad. Eventually, around that point, I kind of figured out what was actually going on, because I think I saw like a commercial on MTV about depression. And, my mom called the doctor and was going to get me in to see the doctor. But unfortunately, because my anxiety I was facing was so bad, I was out of school for 2 months. I wasn't, ever hospitalized or anything like that, but I was just too scared to go to school. Eventually, too scared to leave the house. It was really not the best time in my life at all. After I started seeing, a doctor and everything, that was great and it was starting to be helpful. But one thing that happened was that one of the kids in my confirmation class called me or called my mom or something like that, and asked where I was, because I hadn't been showing up for a couple months. It was probably early February, right around this time of the year. And so through that, we kind of got the idea, maybe we'll go talk to a pastor at church too. So I went there, and the therapist really was helping massively, but what I kind of experienced as sort of a modern day exorcism is what happened next at church. So I talked to my pastor for a couple hours. That was actually probably the first time anyone ever suggested for me to be a pastor in that conversation. But really in the end, the idea came down, okay, Dustin, my pastor said, I'll give your friends in confirmation class a call, and we will set up kind of a time where you can go hang out with a few of them. we have a church basketball league in town, and you'll hang out with them, and then we'll try to get you out to the church basketball game, and that might be a way to get you back into the public. And then you'll get back to school after that. That was sort of the rough plan. And that's what happened. I was able to get outside of my house. It was really scary. It happened, though, and I still had a lot of anxiety. But yeah, I ended up hanging out with my friends from confirmation. And we didn't really do anything crazy. We ate pizza, we went sledding. They had like a precursor to a snowboard called a Snurf. Has anyone ever heard of a Snurf? A few people. They had a Snurf, so we went snurfing down their hill, and this hill in their yard. We watched Star Wars. There was nothing amazing about it, but the turning point in kind of all this, my sort of exorcism experience, is something I'll always remember. It was when, kind of timidly, because I didn't really know what to say, one of my friends asked me about how I was. And in that moment when I was facing so much anxiety, and I was still anxious to be around some of my best friends, I said to them, I have major anxiety. And to be able to name that, and to say that to another person, for the first time really, outside of maybe my immediate family and therapist and that sort of thing, was sort of like the release. And not that things were all better immediately, but just that being able to name something, name the demon I was facing in someone else, was sort of that kind of exorcism. And so, no matter how you define what a demon is, so pretty much what ended up happening, I'll just tell the rest of the story because sometimes I forget the end of these sermons, I ended up going to the basketball game, ended up seeing people from my high school for the first time in a couple months. They asked me where I was. I made up a story that I did not know. And then I got back to school, and it ended up being, still working, had to work through things for, a couple years with a therapist, but things got better pretty quickly. No matter what we think about demons and how we define them, it really doesn't matter. They work the same way. Whatever demons you might be facing, whether maybe it was like me and you face anxiety, or maybe there's some sort of other illness you have, or maybe it's people, sort of a demon of other people not treating you right at work or in school or bullying or whatever it might be. There's all these sorts of demons. And they all kind of work the same way. Luther himself battled with, he would say battled with Satan and his guilt and that sort of thing. He would sit in this little cell. He was still kind of a Roman Catholic monk and yell at Satan all night. And one thing he said about Satan or demons, however you want to define it, is the trickiest thing about them is they make you think you're alone in your struggle. The trickiest thing about a demon, whatever it might be, is that they make you feel like you're alone in your struggle. And what Christ does in these situations is always the same no matter how we define demons as well. No matter what we're facing, we know that Christ has promised us that we're not alone, ever. Ever. That Christ is there with us in all these situations, no matter what. Oftentimes I hear a word from people that, one thing I often hear from people, a lot of my friends that don't go to church anymore, is that they say that the reason they go, they're so religious, they read the Bible at home and all this sort of stuff. What's the point of church? And I think in the end, the whole reason that we gather in spirit-filled community isn't to make God happy or anything like that, but because more often than not, the way that Christ can show up into our lives to help us face whatever demons we're facing is in the face of another fellow. More often than not. We gather in community to support each other and to help free each other from whatever demons we're facing, to celebrate when we have freed ourselves from some sort of demon, and to sort of enliven us to go out and serve others and help other people free themselves from whatever demons they're facing. That is the whole point of why we gather together in spirit-filled community. So, whatever demons you might be facing, first of all, know that Christ is there with you in that battle. That you are not alone at all. And second, that more often than not, a place where you might be able to see Christ breaking into that situation is in the face of someone else, of a sister and brother. And I think the more we can do here in this community, I think we do a great job of it, to be those other people for each other. That's what this whole church thing is all about. That's why we're